Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Bearded Mando. Before we dive in, I'd like to give a big shout out and a special thank you to Rick's nephew. While he was working on a design for his dad, Rick stole the design and used it for me.
I didn't steal it, I was inspired. In cosplay, we're inspired by others' designs and incorporate them into our own.
Right. So without that inspiration, I would look like this. Hi, I'm the Bearded Mando. Today we're gonna work on something. La 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 la.
You're hilarious. Just say your lines.
Big thanks to Rick's nephew Christian for helping make me the Mando I am today. And with that, we're going to be working on the back of the helmet, adding key slots and installing the fans. Let's get to it.
Alright, so I rechecked the sizing on my helmet. I see that I want to take a little off the back. Remember back in part 2 when I taped the back of the template and made registration marks, and then put it off to the side? Well, I'm coming back to it. I grabbed some tape and lined the back template up with the center line on the helmet. I'm going to extend the back of the ear cap base a bit and then make sure the angles line up. I print out page 5 of the helmet templates, I'll leave a link in the description, and grab my fans to check the sizing on the key slots. There's a link for the fans in the description as well. I grab some paper and start designing my new template. After a couple of near misses, I decide on my final custom design. Time for the new poster board template. Since paper is flimsy and can shift on you, I cut it out in parts and trace it onto the poster board. Make sure everything stays lined up. Give that center line a heavy scoring, it makes it easier to fold. Now I tape it onto the helmet and mark where I'm going to trim the back. Then I grab my box cutter and cut where I marked. Now I can cut the template into parts for transfer. I used the original template to mark a top line so that nothing gets distorted. Then I just tape the new parts in place, trace them, and cut them out. Next I tape the back in place, and drill a 1/8 inch pilot hole and set it with a screw. This is just temporary for checking the final sizing, and later for gluing, as my clamps won't reach that far. There's some fine tuning to be done, so I'll grab my sandpaper and get to it. With one side all set, I drill another hole and set another screw. The other side needs some fine tuning as well, so I sand and trim it until it fits and set it with a screw. Sand everything down as needed, then wipe it all down with isopropyl alcohol. Then we apply the E6000. As I was cutting this part from the helmet, the knife slipped and left a deep cut. This will need some extra care. I tape it in place as a start. The clamps were not holding the sides as well as I would have liked, so I drill some more holes and set some more screws. There's gonna be more Bondo and sanding in my future. Sigh. The tape wasn't enough to hold the cut at the top, so I clamped a piece of scrap plywood in place to secure it while I glue cured. I also added 2 more wood screws in the middle sections to secure them. With the brim and the sides done, I can move on to the key slots. I clamp and trace the part in place so that I know where to cut the hole. This is going to make gluing it in place much easier. I check on the fan to make sure I will get enough airflow. Back to page 5 of the helmet template for the key slots. I cut out the key slots and check the sizing on the helmet. I apologize for the brightness here. I didn't notice while I was filming, and I wasn't able to fix it in my editor. Big whitewash. Just know that everything fits the way it's supposed to. Grab some scrap sale sign plastic and tape the template onto it. Make the cutting a bit easier. With that all cut out and set, trim it down and glue it to the cover. More sanding, more trimming, and finally, more gluing. And more clamping, and drill another hole and set another screw. Move on to prepping the fans and the helmet with velcro. This is enough to hold them in place and allow me to change them out if they fail down the road. Next I have my soldering iron, wire strippers, knife, battery bank, helping hand with magnifier, solder, fan, and a cell phone charger cable. Please bear in mind that I took an electronics class in high school about 32 years ago, so my terminology may be lacking. Clip off the connector end of the fan and strip off about a ½ inch to expose the wires on both ends. Twist the wires to make it easier to solder. Right here I made a mistake. I didn't have my coffee yet and I cut the wrong end of the cable. Fortunately, I always have a spare. This time I double check which end I'm supposed to cut. The wires in the charger cable are much thinner than those in the fan, so I had to use my knife to strip them. Be very careful when you're doing this. You don't want to cut through the wires or your thumb. This is just a charging cable, so it's simply positive and negative. Red is always positive, but some cables have white for the negative, some have black. In this case, the negative is white. Data transfer cables I think have 4 wires. One of them will always be red, and another one will be either black or white. We're only dealing with 5 volts here, so it's pretty safe. With the charger wires stripped and twisted, I connect red to red and black to white to check my circuit. It works! Yay! I like the idea of having a battery with a built-in switch. It makes it easier to turn the fans on and off as needed without having to unplug the cable. Double check that the wires will be long enough once everything's installed on the helmet. Now I'm ready to solder. I have some craft foam strips in the helping hand. Those clips can crush smaller gauge wires. Yes, my soldering is painful to watch if you know what you're doing, but it works. I realized that I should have twisted the red wires together before soldering them. It doesn't take much in the way of solder to secure the connection, just a thin coating. Now I move on to the negative wires. Twist them together and add a bit of solder. Check my circuit again, then I can move on to the other fan. One fan will bring in fresh air from the key slots, the other will be pointed down at the visor to keep fogging at a minimum. Now I solder the second fan's connections. And yes, I check everything again. I'm not paranoid, I just hate having to go back too many steps to find a problem. I used hot glue as an insulator for the exposed wires. Then I used electrical tape on top of that to ensure that the wires don't pull loose.
And there you have it, one step closer to a completed custom Mandalorian helmet. Next episode, we'll be working with Bondo and a whole lot of sanding. If you like what we're doing here, please leave a comment and let us know. And remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons. This is the way after all. Here at the Bearded Mando, we're all about cosplay, Mandalorian style.